Hello and welcome back to 16 Weeks of Sats with myself, Andrew. Now, hopefully you've been following along in this series, and this week we're going to be looking at contractions. And very straightforward, you'll have done lots of work with contractions throughout Key Stage 2 when it comes to your writing and the use of that apostrophe to show a contraction. So really, when it comes to Sats, there isn't anything, I keep saying this in every video, there isn't too much to worry about. And really, it's just using the knowledge that you have already from your writing to show whether we are contracting a word using an apostrophe for an omission. So a word shortens, just like we might have can't, so it would be can and not, is shortened and contracted, and the apostrophe goes in the place of the letters that are removed. Very, very simple. Okay. The other example is when we use the apostrophe to show possession. So if it was Andrew's cup or mug, whatever it may be, the apostrophe would be in between the W and the S of Andrew's mug. The apostrophe is there to show that it is my mug. Okay. So very, very simple. And we need that for clarity when it comes to writing. So that's what's being tested. Do we have that clarity using the apostrophe to show either a word that has been shortened, contracted, or to show possession via the apostrophe? Okay. But again, don't worry too much about it. The Sats examples are pretty straightforward and actually lead you into the marks without too much effort. So we're going to continue to look into this. I've got some brief explanations about contractions. Then we're going to look at the 5 or 6 contraction examples that I could find in the Sats papers. And actually, these are really useful because unlike other questions where they're all very similar in terms of how they're laid out, the contraction questions, there's actually 3 or 4 different ways that they lay out the contraction style questions. So it's really useful to be able to look at those and think, okay, that's what those questions are going to look like. So let's check them out. Contractions. So let's take a little bit of look at contractions and just recap, because I know this isn't new information for a lot of people. So a contraction is when 2 words are put together with an apostrophe. And understanding the word contraction, if we think about muscles, when a muscle contracts, it gets shorter or it becomes shorter. All right. So the same is true of in grammar, in writing, okay, a word is becoming shorter. So an apostrophe takes the place of the letters that have been removed. So again, if we think about I am, the apostrophe here, with these little guys, the apostrophe essentially the A has been removed and the apostrophe shows that. And it's important in your grammar paper to make sure that the apostrophe is well sized and well positioned. It shouldn't be very, very large like this. It should just be just above the lowercase. And then again, if we had do not, and we were contracting that to don't, very simply, the O here has been removed, so we have don't, the apostrophe goes in there. And again, just reference the size. So again, omission means that something is being missed out, it's been removed, it's been omitted. So that's the most straightforward way of using a contraction. And generally, we have more formal here, I am, do not, and then these types of versions, the contracted versions, which we might find in speech or in questions that are maybe a little bit more informal, I'm, don't. Okay. And then the other way that we're going to use contractions or see examples of contractions in the apostrophe is when an apostrophe is used to show ownership. Okay. So again, we have the cat's tail. The tail is owned by the cat, so we have an apostrophe to show that. Okay. James has a book, so it would be James's book. And again, the cat's bed was very comfortable. We show that relationship in terms of ownership using an apostrophe for possession. And they're the 2 question types that we're going to encounter. So let's take a look at them. So again, question 43, much further on in the paper, write a contracted form of the underlined words in the box below. So don't let this phrase fool you in terms of the contracted form. It's basically just saying contract these 2 words. So shall not, what would that become if it was a contraction? And again, this is just a case of knowing these to a certain extent. And this goes a little bit away from the rule around it's just about the removed letters, because this is slightly different. So with this, we would find that it's shan't. So that would be S-H-A-N apostrophe T. Now, personally, I think that's a little bit unfair because we have the S, the H, the A, then the L's are removed, then we keep the N, and then the O is removed, and we keep the T. So it's a little bit unfair, but again, remembering that shall not is going to become shan't is really important, okay? We shan't do that again. Now, this question type is, again, a little bit earlier. So, and again, it's testing both parts of the knowledge of the apostrophe. So it's got examples here where we have apostrophes, and it wants to know whether the apostrophe, what the apostrophe is being used for. Is it just shortening a word, or is it showing possession? And again, that should be pretty straightforward. Tick one box in each row to show whether the apostrophe is used for contracted form or possession, okay? Let's hope it warms up soon. So again, this is a shortening of let us. Okay, let us hope it warms up soon. And again, we can clarify that because there really is no possession, is there? Let's doesn't have any relationship or possession of hope. So again, we can be very, very confident that this is going to just be a contraction. The next one, the teacher's coats were hanging in the staff room. Now, the coats obviously belong to the teachers. So that is possession, isn't it? We can just, as we read it, the teacher's coats, they own them. So that is possession. So we would tick this box. And then the final statement, the children wear their scarves when it's cold. Again, and it is just a contraction of it is. Okay, so it is shortened, contracted form. So we would tick that box. And hopefully you can see this question type and think, yeah, okay, very straightforward. But remember, we must get all three correct if we're going to score the mark. And the next question, so again, don't get tricked or caught out or confused by this contracted form. All it's wanting you to do is take will not and she would and contract them, okay, into their contracted form. So write the contracted form of the underlined words in the boxes below. I will not be able to come to your party, but Karina said that she would come. And again, part of this, you do sort of need to have a little bit of knowledge of contractions because it isn't willn't, okay? It's going to be won't, okay? I won't, writing it nice and clearly, normal size apostrophe. I won't be able to come to your party, but Karina said that she'd come. Okay, so it's S-H-E apostrophe D. Okay, so we can reread that. I won't be able to come to your party, but Karina said she'd come. Very simple, very straightforward. And again, we must reference the fact that you need to get both of these correct in order to get the mark. And again, sometimes with these questions, just think how you would say it. You probably wouldn't say, I will not be able to come to your party. You would just say, I won't be able to come. It's very, very like how I would say it. I won't be able to come to your party. That just sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Karina said that she'd come. So wait, if you're a little bit stuck with contracted form, really just try to think how you would say that sentence if you were just speaking it rather than writing it in the proper way of saying it in the standard English sense. Sorry for getting that jumbled slightly, but that does make sense as a top tip. And once again, we've got to get 3 in this example to get the mark. I think this is a really good example. So write the contracted form. So again, it's really good to see this and think, okay, contracted form just means to shorten all of these into their phrases, into their contractions. So write the contracted form of the underlined words in the boxes below them. Liam was not completely surprised. Again, so it's just Liam wasn't Okay, very simple. We'll do them one by one this time. So we've got Liam wasn't. Again, completely surprised at the knock on his door that morning. In fact, he had been waiting. So in fact, he'd been waiting. Very simple. So again, we're just writing this nice and clearly. Again, I know I'm joining it, but one of the top tips I would always sort of semi-joined and then not joined. But one of the top tips I would always give to my pupils was when we're doing our SATs, try to just not join up. Okay, if you can just print, then the examiners or the markers are much more likely to be able to see and understand what you're writing. So if your joined writing isn't particularly clear, I would always recommend, and there'll probably be some teachers nodding as I say this, just print your answers. And I'll do that on the next one. And again, we should see it is, and just know that that's going to be it. And again, but the thing to notice here, hopefully you've spotted it, end of the sentence. So the I must be capitalized. A little bit tricky here. If you just wrote it as a lowercase I, you wouldn't get the mark. So it needs to be capital I, T, apostrophe S, okay? It's. So we've got wasn't, he'd, and it's. Again, with the capital letter because it's the start of a sentence. And again, you need to get all three of those for the mark. Very simple. And again, I'll go back to my top tip. If you're not sure of what it could be, just try and say the sentence how you would say it to a friend if you were on the playground, in the more relaxed way, informal way of saying it. And the final example, again, write the contracted form. So it's taking these words, okay, so nobody is and will not. Very simple to answer, hopefully, and you should hopefully be able to spot what the two of these will be already. And with this question, if nobody is a really unfamiliar one. Again, it's just remembering this contracted form, and it's just if nobody's home, it's how we would probably say it if we were out. Nobody's home. You wouldn't say nobody is home if you were just talking to a friend. You would say nobody's home. So how is that contracted? Well, we're going to lose the I of is and just contract from there. So again, we're going to print. Again, my writing goes all over the place. Now we're printing. We've got nobody's home and your parcel won't be delivered. Okay, and again, now that's an unusual one of those contractions of will not becomes won't. And again, it's a regular one, will not, does crop up, as you can see from some of the examples we've looked at already. Will not does crop up, and it's important to remember that that contracts into won't. So again, nobody's, won't, and both of those will get us the single mark. And finally, with these question types, I've got 2 pages of questions. This page is all about omission, so your straightforward contractions. So pause the screen and have a go at them. Once you're done, press play again and move on to the next set of questions, which are going to be about possession. And here are your possession questions. So again, using apostrophes to show possession, we've got some circling, some inserting, and some rewriting. So 3 different skills potentially that you would need using your SATs. Have a go at these, pause the screen, and then come back by pressing play and finishing off the video. And there we go, that's contractions covered. And as I said, probably the most useful thing about this video isn't necessarily learning something new about contractions. And if you have, that's great. But I think the best thing is being able to look at the different examples with some of the different boxes and some of the different things that you're required to do with contractions to get the mark. Sometimes you're contracting the word, sometimes you're using apostrophe for possession, sometimes you're having to write in boxes, sometimes you're having to circle. So there's lots of different ways that you are required to demonstrate your understanding, okay? But I'm pretty sure you guys, if you've been working hard over the past few weeks, that these contraction questions won't be too difficult. And again, the likelihood is, if we've got 5 or 6 examples of these types of questions, the chances are you're going to get at least one of these questions in your SATs. So understanding what contractions are for omission and for possession is really, really important. Okay. So well done. Well done for getting stuck into this video and working hard. Continue to check out the other videos. This is probably the 12th or 13th video that I've released for grammar. So definitely check out all the other ones. We've got nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, contractions. We've got modal verbs. We've got subordinating and coordinating conjunctions, noun phrases. So many videos to help you get those essential marks in your SATs. So keep working hard, and I'll see you in the next video of 16 weeks of SATs.